Mom, you don't do anything by yourself, do you? Dad taught me well. He said, you're the perfect example of a parasite. My sister-in-law, Lisa, who had become a full-time housewife after giving birth, looked down awkwardly. My mother-in-law seemed like she was about to say something, but before she could, Jack shouted, "No matter how much money we have, it's never enough." He burst into loud laughter that echoed throughout the restaurant. At that moment, I felt like the time had finally come, and I calmly responded, "Then pay the accommodation fee, $19,800. Jack and Lisa exchanged glances, then both burst out laughing rudely. "What are you talking about? The accommodation fee this time is at least $5,000. I thought you were naive, but you can't even do basic math." Jack and Lisa both smirked, showing the same vulgar expression. But I wasn't going to back down anymore. I was ready for this, and this gathering was the perfect stage with all the relatives present. My name is Natalie James. I'm 35 years old, and I have a 19-year-old daughter. People always questioned the math. It seemed impossible for someone my age. The truth is, Lisa is not my biological daughter. She is my husband Jack's daughter from a previous marriage. Jack and I met after his divorce when he was raising Lisa on his own. We eventually got married, and I became Lisa's stepmother. Jack works as a magazine editor. When I was a student, I dreamed of becoming an editor myself and got a part-time job at his company. That's how I met Jack in the editorial department, and he treated me very kindly. He was 19 years older than me, and I admired how mature and competent he was. It was refreshing compared to boys my own age. Eventually, we started dating, despite our busy schedules. My part-time job was going well, and even the editor-in-chief liked me enough to suggest I work there full-time after graduation. I was overjoyed, thinking about my future career at the same company as Jack. After a night of careful consideration, I decided to accept the offer. But when I went into the office the next day, the editor-in-chief had a somewhat smile on his face. Jack stood beside him, smiling brightly. "I turned down the job for you. We're getting married soon, right? You'll be staying at home, taking care of the family. There's no point in you working. If you mess up raising Lisa, it'll be a disaster." I understood his point. I wasn't sure I could handle both the new career and our relationship at the same time. But I was also shocked that Jack had taken away my chance without even consulting me. He looked at me with the confidence of an older man, expecting my agreement. "But I still want to try working." "Want to try? It's not the kind of job you can just try. You don't even understand how tough it is. You're so naive. I don't even know what to do with you." Jack's intimidating attitude made me give up on the idea of a career. And so, I became a mother to a 6-year-old daughter right after graduating from college. Having no prior experience raising a child, it was a struggle I can't even describe. I had no idea what was needed or what to do. It was all trial and error. Jack was busy with work and didn't give me much advice. The person who supported me through those difficult times was my mother-in-law, Heather. "Natalie, I'm so glad to have a wonderful daughter-in-law like you. Raising a child is hard for everyone, but don't worry, you can ask for help anytime." Thanks to her encouragement, I gradually became more comfortable caring for Lisa. Lisa was a precocious child, and when we first started living together, she was quite rebellious. "This is my new mom. She's not as great as my old mom."
"Lisa, don't say things like that. Natalie, I'm sorry. She's just going through that phase."
Jack's reassurance helped me accept Lisa's words, telling myself she was just a child. I worked hard to be a good wife and mother, hoping to gain their approval. It wasn't just child rearing that was difficult for me. Without any income of my own, I was entirely dependent on the monthly allowance Jack gave me for our living expenses. But Jack didn't seem to understand how much it actually cost to run a household. In his previous marriage, they both worked, so he never had to deal with the finances himself. The money he gave me each month barely covered what we needed, and by the end of the month, I'd often find myself struggling. One evening, after Lisa had gone to bed, I decided to talk to Jack about it. "Hey, the money you give me each month, it's not really enough."
"What? Have you been wasting it?"
No matter how much I try to cut back, it's not enough. I'm not asking for more money. I was just thinking, maybe I could get a part-time job. Jack's expression turned furious, a look I had never seen before or since.
"Are you saying my earnings aren't enough?"
Do you know how embarrassing it would be for people to find out my wife is working part-time? Are you trying to make me look like a failure? I didn't understand why Jack thought me working would bring him shame, but he was dead serious, and it seemed impossible to argue with him. That's not what I meant. It's just that Lisa is at school during the day, and I thought if I could contribute, it would help us. Contribute? You don't know anything. My ex-wife worked too, and it ruined everything. She was also an editor, always working day and night. The house was a mess, and she never cooked. When I finally decided to ask for a divorce, she beat me to it. Women who work destroy families. Is that what you want? No, I'm not like her. I just wanted to make use of my free time. Would that really be so bad? Yes, women can't be trusted. They lie, they cheat, and you're no different. You should focus on what you can handle, which is running this household. After that day, I gave up on the idea of getting a job. Still, I managed to make our household work by being resourceful. I found ways to cook delicious meals with cheap ingredients, and I made most of Lisa's belongings by hand. I didn't waste a single thing. I sold unneeded items at stores or online. And when we needed to make a big purchase, I found good quality secondhand items. Jack and Lisa both took my efforts for granted. They'd come home expecting a warm bath, a home-cooked meal, and clean clothes without ever thanking me. But I still believed that doing everything perfectly as a stay-at-home wife and mother would benefit me in the long run. When I shopped, my motto was $20, because that was the maximum I could afford for groceries. The local supermarket knew how frugal moms like me thought, so they often had $20 sales. Lisa, however, looked down on this. Mom, why are you always looking for the cheapest stuff? If we're so poor, why don't you just get a job? If I worked, who would take care of the house? That would make Dad sad. My job is to take care of the family. Liar, Dad says you're a parasite. Her words sent a chill through me. It seemed Jack had been teaching Lisa to see me that way. Lisa, calling someone a parasite isn't nice. Please don't think of me like that. But I knew Jack was the only father Lisa had, and she believed everything he said. Jack had been subtly brainwashing her, making her believe that stay-at-home moms were worthless. He also had a habit of giving her pocket money whenever he felt like it. Sometimes I'd wonder just how much money she was carrying around. Even though I asked Jack to stop, he never listened. What? Do you not love Lisa? Do you hate your stepdaughter so much that you don't want to give her anything? You're a terrible woman. Get down on your knees and apologize. Never insult Lisa again. His outbursts would sometimes spiral out of control like that. Jack always took Lisa's side, and Lisa knew it. As she grew older, she became more aware of her status in the household, recognizing that she could get away with anything. Even when Lisa became a college student, the dynamic didn't change. Jack continued to spoil her, giving her money whenever she asked, and Lisa kept up her bad habits, spending that money on junk food, even though she was constantly dieting. Lisa, if you're so worried about your diet, why don't you cook with me? Homemade meals are healthier, and you'll learn something useful. What? Cooking is a mom's job. I don't need to do that. You're the one shirking your duties by asking me to help. I just thought it'd be a good skill for you to learn for the future. My future? No way. I'm going to be successful and won't need to do chores. Lisa's attitude was a mirror image of Jack's. He always told her, you'll never have to do housework. You'll be too important. But I believed everyone should at least know how to take care of themselves, even if they had a career. Maybe my way of thinking was old-fashioned. Lisa was sprawled out on the couch, munching on snacks. The trail of crumbs she left in her wake was my problem to deal with, not hers. I vacuumed the floor, wondering how things had gotten this bad. The only reason I was able to tolerate this kind of life was that Jack was always so busy with work and rarely home. And on top of that, Jack's relatives were all genuinely kind people. His family was close-knit. Every New Year's we'd gather for greetings, and every summer we'd go on family trips together. This year, it was going to be Jack, Lisa, myself, his parents, his younger sister, her husband, and their 3 small children, a total of 10 people. Organizing a trip for so many, especially with kids, was no easy task, but the lively atmosphere made it worth the effort. The responsibility for planning the annual summer trip rotated each year. This year, it was Jack's turn to handle everything. Hey, take care of everything for the trip, okay? What? What am I supposed to do?
What do you mean, what? Everything. I'm busy with more important work. You can handle something like this, right?
So, Jack dumped the entire trip planning on me, choosing the destination, booking transportation, scheduling the whole thing. I tried to say no, but Jack was hardly home, and the trip date was quickly approaching. So, reluctantly, I sat down in front of my computer to start looking for accommodations. That's when Lisa wandered over. You know how to use a computer, Mom? I thought you'd become a total loser since graduating from college. Lately, Lisa had taken to calling me a loser or parasite any chance she got. She didn't seem to know what the words actually meant, but it didn't matter to her. Ignoring her, I focused on planning. Right then, Jack came home. Dad, I need $300 for my club trip tomorrow. Lisa asked for money at the very last minute, but Jack's reaction was shocking.
Oh, right, here.
He pulled out his wallet and handed her the money on the spot. Lisa, you'll pay that back when you get back from the trip, right? Why would I? Dad, tell her.
Of course she doesn't have to pay it back. What are you, jealous of her youth or something? Face it, you're just bitter because you can't compete with her anymore.
They were completely in sync, father and daughter nodding in agreement. Lisa spent the rest of the evening packing for her trip, making a mess of the house. The next day, Lisa left for her club trip, and Jack went back to work, leaving me to finish preparing for the family vacation. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. Our group of 10 was headed to a famous luxury resort. Standing in front of the beautiful historic building, we were all in awe. Jack's parents immediately took out their cameras for a family photo. Wow, Jack, what a beautiful place. How did you manage to book it?
Oh, I got some inside information. That's the only way I could have booked such a fancy place during this busy season.
Of course, everything Jack said was something I had arranged. But he puffed out his chest, basking in the compliments, and his parents and sisters seemed impressed. For me, this annual summer trip was the one indulgence I looked forward to. Jack loved to show off, so he spared no expense on this trip, choosing the highest tier package available. Naturally, the whole family was thrilled, especially Jack's younger sister and her husband, who were overjoyed with the resort's baby-friendly accommodations. Jack took all the credit, acting as if he had planned everything himself. So the 3-day, 2-night stay began, but Jack refused to lift a finger the whole time. He left all the responsibilities to me. When we went shopping at the gift shops, it was Lisa who kept piling items into my arms without any thought to the cost or the load. Jack strolled around with nothing but his wallet and phone in hand, not bothering to help with the bags. At one point, they even asked me for change when they wanted to buy drinks from the vending machine. I couldn't believe it. They didn't even want to buy their own drinks. The same routine played out again and again throughout the trip, and I could see Jack's parents and his sister's family becoming more and more uncomfortable. I pretended not to notice their discomfort. The final straw came on the last morning of the trip. We were all gathered in the banquet hall for breakfast. While the rest of us drank tea, Lisa ordered orange juice as usual. She had never been satisfied with water or tea at mealtime, even as a child. Mom, I don't like this sausage. You eat it. You're already fat, so it doesn't matter if you eat more, right? Everyone, guess what? Mom eats all the leftovers I leave at night. That's why she's getting fat. She's basically eating trash. She was waving her fork around as she spoke, and in the process, she knocked over her glass of juice. Jack didn't get angry at Lisa for her behavior. Instead, he scolded me.
Natalie, what are you doing? Clean up after her. You should have helped her immediately.
What? I was speechless. Lisa wasn't a child anymore. She could clean up her own mess. But Lisa acted like it was completely normal to demand that I take care of it. Come on, Mom, hurry up. I grabbed a napkin and started wiping up the mess, then called for more napkins. When the staff brought them, neither Jack nor Lisa bothered to say thank you. They had grown so accustomed to being waited on that they didn't think twice about it. Jack's parents and I were the only ones who bowed and thanked the staff. After breakfast, we checked out of the resort and headed to a famous local restaurant for lunch. I had made a reservation ahead of time, ensuring we would have a relaxing experience without the crowds. As usual, Jack's parents complimented my planning, but Jack took all the credit. Over lunch, Jack opened a beer and began drinking, enjoying the local cuisine. As the meal went on, one of Jack's sister's young kids grew restless and started fussing. She was busy with the baby, so I offered to help with one of the twins. Jack, can you move your stuff so I can have more space? Jack was sprawled out on the couch, taking up more than his share of the seating. Huh? What's the problem? You can't even manage the bags? What are you good for if you can't even carry stuff? His voice rang out loudly, freezing everyone in place. He was so used to treating me like this at home that he didn't realize how inappropriate it was in public. He continued gulping down his beer, his face growing redder by the minute. I must have had a dumbfounded look on my face because Lisa burst out laughing. Wow, Mom, you can't even carry bags. You really are useless. Just like Dad said, you're nothing but a parasite. Jack's sister, who was now a stay-at-home mom after giving birth, looked down awkwardly. Their mother, who had been a homemaker for years, opened her mouth to say something, but Jack spoke first. No matter how much money we have, it'll never be enough. He laughed loudly, so much that the sound echoed through the restaurant. I felt a strange calm wash over me. Fine then, why don't you pay for the lodging? It's $19,800. Jack and Lisa exchanged glances, then burst into another round of mocking laughter. What are you talking about? The lodging this time was at least $5,000. I always knew you were clueless about the world, but you can't even do simple math. You think you can lecture Dad about money with that ridiculous calculation? How embarrassing. Jack looked at Lisa proudly, as if she'd just won an argument on his behalf. But I didn't care anymore. I handed the baby I was holding back to Jack's sister and reached into my bag. I pulled out a document and laid it in front of Jack. I'm sorry I've been such a useless wife. I'm sorry for being such a burden. So I'll make it easy for you. Let's get a divorce. Jack's eyes widened, and his face, already flushed from the alcohol, turned an even deeper shade of red. Divorce? You've got to be kidding. You couldn't survive without me. Actually, it's you and Lisa who can't do anything without me. You don't even know where anything is in the house. Starting today, if you want to stay, you'll have to pay rent. I pulled out my phone and opened the calculator app. Meals, $30 a day. Laundry, $10. Cleaning, $15. That's still way cheaper than staying at a resort, isn't it? What the hell are you talking about? You're going to charge me to stay in my own house? Jack was panicking, but his mother stepped in and told him to let me finish. It's only fair. Anywhere else, you'd be paying for all of this. Just like you're paying for this trip, right? If you want to keep living your pampered life, it will cost you $5,500 a month, which adds up to $66,000 a year. Jack let out a small whimper and knocked over his beer glass. But I'm feeling generous. I'll give you the discount. So if you'll only pay $19,800, no further discounts. And yes, Lisa will be paying the same amount. Both Jack and Lisa froze, stunned by my sudden declaration. They couldn't comprehend that I, who had silently done all the housework for years, was now turning the tables on them. The air in the room became heavy with silence, while beer continued to drip from Jack's table. Fine, I'll move out. I've always wanted to live on my own anyway. I still have $500 left over for my spending money. I couldn't help but stifle a laugh. Lisa, a college freshman, clearly had no grasp of what it took to live on her own. What are you talking about? You need first and last month's rent, a deposit, and fees to move into an apartment. You can't rent a place for just $500, and don't forget you'll need furniture and appliances. You really are clueless. You don't have any life skills, do you? Lisa had always relied on the allowance Jack gave her for everything: food, clothes, entertainment, even her tuition. And even if you could pay for rent, what about your extracurricular activities? Just recently you were begging Dad for money for your club trip at the last minute. Once you live on your own, you can kiss all that goodbye. How will you meet up with your friends or afford to go out? Lisa fell silent, biting her lip. Just then, Jack's mother pointed at the restaurant's TV. Look, Lisa's on TV. We all turned to the screen. There was a blurred-out photo of a college student involved in a scandal during a club trip, and though the face was obscured, it was clearly Lisa. The news report explained how a group of students had caused extensive damage at a resort by behaving recklessly and breaking things. Lisa's phone started ringing. We had been in a remote area with limited signal, but now we were closer to the city and her phone was buzzing nonstop. Lisa hesitantly answered, immediately apologizing profusely to whoever was on the other end. I'm really sorry, but how much do I need to pay to fix the door? It's just made out of paper, right? Isn't it super cheap to fix? Like a sheet of printer paper costs less than $1. Can't you just handle it on your end? What do you mean? It's not just about money. What else do you want from me? Lisa was completely missing the point, unable to understand why the resort was upset. Jack's parents were whispering to each other, their expressions grim. As much as they loved Lisa, this kind of behavior wasn't something they could ignore. Watching them, I knew I wouldn't step in to defend her. This was a consequence of the way she'd been allowed to live all these years. Meanwhile, Jack's phone also started ringing. At first, I assumed it was related to the club trip scandal, but it seemed to be about something else. Yeah, sorry, we were out of signal range. What's going on? What do you mean? What kind of problem? From the sound of it, Jack's job was in trouble. The magazine he had been in charge of was getting shut down. Your magazine's shutting down? What the hell do you know? That magazine was my life. It's not my fault. The world doesn't appreciate its value. Did they give you a reason why it's shutting down? Yeah, they said something about the internet being more popular. The usual crap. The truth was, I played a small part in this magazine's downfall. Around the time Lisa entered high school, I started reminiscing about my days as a student when I had wanted to be a magazine editor. I began writing articles on budgeting and household hacks online, sharing tips I'd developed over the years of running our home on a tight budget. My articles quickly gained popularity among housewives, thanks to the useful advice I shared on how to make cheap ingredients taste good, how to clean effectively, and other practical tips. I had kept notes on everything I'd learned as a homemaker, and the knowledge I gained from living with Jack, who worked in the publishing industry, helped me stay informed about trends. It was this inside knowledge that made my articles stand out. In fact, much of the information I had used to book our trip came from my network of blogging colleagues. When I showed Jack's mother and sister the articles on my phone, they gasped in recognition. I've seen these before. I had no idea you were the author. Yep, and guess what? My articles just surpassed Jack's magazines in readership. It was only a matter of time before his magazine folded. You arrogant. You're just a housewife pretending to be a writer. Don't get ahead of yourself. Wow, with an attitude like that, no wonder your magazine tanked. If you treat your readers the way you treat your family, it's no surprise people didn't want to read your work anymore. You probably pushed away everyone at work, too. Now look at you. Your family's falling apart, your career's over, and you've got nothing left. A man who can't even carry his own bags. Good luck finding anyone who wants to be around you. Jack put his head in his hands, overwhelmed by everything coming at him at once. You thought you were controlling me by keeping me as a housewife, but I turned the tables. I learned how to survive on nothing, but what about you? Jack's mother, who'd been sitting quietly up until now, slammed her fist on the table. I've had enough. Jack, you've been using Natalie this whole time, pretending you were doing her a favor. When did you become so selfish? You're a disgrace. Her eyes blazed with a fury I hadn't seen before. She had always supported me, but now, seeing how far things had gone, her anger boiled over. The rest of the family shared her sentiment, watching Jack with disgust. No, Mom, it's not like that. Natalie's just tired right now. She doesn't mean any of this. Our family is fine, really. Oh, is that what you think? I've been watching you both throughout this trip, and it's clear that neither you nor Lisa lift a finger to help Natalie. Sign the divorce papers, or, if you want to stay, pay the rent. For someone who had spent years calling me useless, I had expected Jack to jump at the chance to be free of me. But for some reason, he hesitated. This has to be a joke, right? Rent? Divorce? No way. I can't live without you, Natalie. Yeah, Mom. I need you. If I've been a little spoiled, I can change. Please, just come back and be the way you used to be. I'm done. I put up with this stuff until Lisa graduated high school, but now she's an adult. I don't want to take care of a grown woman who doesn't do anything for herself. It's you two who've been the parasites all along. For years, Jack had financially controlled me, making me believe that without his income, I was powerless. But now that I had a clear path forward, I realized I had nothing to fear. I'm not a parasite. If anything, it was you two who were living off of me this whole time. I can live just fine without you. But what about you? Have you ever cooked a meal, done laundry, cleaned?
I can do that. I mean, it's not that hard, right? There are plenty of gadgets and online tutorials. I'll figure it out.
Oh, honey, you're in for a rude awakening. There are a million little tasks that keep a household running, and you two were masters at dumping all of them on me. You never restock the essentials, you never pick up after yourselves, and you always spring last-minute requests on me. Do you really think you can handle all of that? I have my doubts. Jack's grip tightened around my hand as he looked at me with teary eyes. Natalie, don't do this. Please, let's not ruin everything over this. You thought making me a housewife would leave me powerless, but I turned it around. I made you powerless. Jack slumped forward, defeated. But men do important work outside the home. Women are supposed to handle the house. That's just how it is. You didn't even do your job properly. Your magazine's dead, and you have nothing to show for it. You don't produce anything, Jack. How could you have stood there all these years and pretended like you were doing something more important? Face it, you're not needed anymore. By this point, Jack and Lisa were completely isolated, with everyone glaring at them in disgust. Even Jack's younger sister had made up her mind.
I'm done with you, Jack. You're no brother of mine anymore. And Lisa, I don't want anything to do with you either. I can't believe you've turned into such a spoiled brat. I'm cutting ties with you too. Don't come looking for me, either of you. I've had enough of being leeched on by parasites like you.
It was clear that the family had unanimously decided to cut Jack and Lisa off. I came prepared for this. I pulled out an envelope and laid it in front of Jack and Lisa. Here's everything you'll need, your bank books, IDs, everything. You can leave now and don't come back. Oh, and in case you forgot, the apartment is a rental and we'll be moving out at the end of the month. Wait, Natalie, we agreed not to tell anyone about that. Jack's mother gasped, covering her mouth in shock. You've been renting all this time? I can't believe you've been pretending to live in a fancy place. What a joke. Jack sat there, his face drained of color.
Grandma, what are we supposed to do?
Figure it out for yourselves. You had everything handed to you for so long. It's time you learned what life's really like. You've got your essentials right. When you find a new place to live, I'll send you the rest of your stuff. But from now on, you're on your own. As we left the restaurant and headed toward the station, I handed everyone a train ticket. I had foreseen this outcome and only bought reserved seats for the rest of us. Jack and Lisa got non-reserved tickets. You're free now. I hope you find a nice place to go. We boarded separate cars, and that was the last I saw of them. After we returned home, Jack and Lisa ended up staying in separate rooms at a local internet cafe. Apparently, neither of them could handle being entirely on their own. Even while I was out eating with family, Jack kept sending me messages, complete with photos of their pitiful meals. It was annoying, but sharing the messages with Jack's mother and sister made them laugh, so I didn't mind too much. As for Jack, he struggled to find another job after his magazine folded. But Lisa had it even worse. Lisa faced public backlash after the scandal involving her behavior at the university trip went public. While her face and name weren't explicitly mentioned in the news, anyone who knew her could recognize her easily. The entire incident cast a shadow over her ambitions of becoming a successful, independent woman. She had grand dreams of a career, but this scandal put a huge dent in her future. Frankly, I never thought Lisa would amount to much anyway, given that she couldn't even handle basic household tasks. I hope that now, facing the real world, she'll finally learn from her mistakes. Some people have asked me if dedicating my life to raising a family and managing a household was tough, but honestly, I don't see it that way. I'm only 35. I've still got my whole life ahead of me. Everything I've been through so far has just prepared me for what's next. I've got plenty of things I want to do now, and I'm ready for whatever comes. With all the challenges behind me, I'm excited to start the second chapter of my life.